Donald Trump's new tariffs now target nearly the entire world. Meanwhile, Grayscale, Fidelity, and ARK Invest have continued adding Bitcoin to their holdings. Welcome back to the Crypto ZX channel, to the XRP holders. Appreciate you guys as always for tuning in on a regular day-to-day basis. Give yourself a pat on the back if you're still here, paying attention to the crypto markets, because, let's face it, we're seeing so much uncertainty right now, within the crypto space, and even in the traditional, markets. And, if you're still here, give yourself a pat on the back, because of course right now, in the grand scheme of things, there is a lack of interest. But, where the smart money is, they are picking up the bloodbath, and this is a perfect example. But, before we get into any further, as always, just a quick disclaimer: anything on this channel is not financial advice. Always do your own due diligence and research when you are investing in crypto. So it has been an eventful, week, as we know, to say the least. But now a lot of people are just looking forward for Monday. How the equity market is going to react. Are we going to see a little bit of uptick? Because let's face it, we're seeing a lot of downside for the stock market, which of course is bringing the question whether or not the crypto is going to follow. Because what happened yesterday was crypto did the complete opposite, which is very unusual. But is that the start? We'll see what happens. But let's move forward, guys. I want to really show you guys what's really happening right now, and how I personally am taking a look at this specific time that we're in. So you can see, despite uncertain economic conditions, Bitwise CIO Matt Hogan believes it's the best time to buy Bitcoin. And moving forward, the RWAs were a standout in quarter one, with total value locked in real world assets protocol recently surpassing already $10 billion. And the way things are going, I think, the list is just going to get bigger and bigger. And I think, this number in terms of TVL is going to expand quite substantially beyond a lot of people's expectations. But, let's go over this, guys. This right here is something that, it's starting to just make Warren Buffett, just look like the most genius dude ever. Of course, the reason why I see that is because, of course, if you've been following, what he has been doing, he was liquidating a lot of his positions last year, and going into the treasury bills, so T-bills. And again, people were questioning whether or not he knows something that we don't, but he saw this entire thing unfolding. And now people are starting to see this guy is actually a genius, because of the fact that he actually was cashing out while no one was really paying attention. And now things are really unfolding the way people are anticipating. And look at what Brood Market says. Warren Buffett is a legend. But kind of going back to what I said at the beginning, even though this has happened, I personally believe this is going to be short-lived. This entire tariff, or whatever the case may be. I think as interest rates potentially start coming down, maybe there does indeed need to come a pause with these tariffs. Because of course this has had a major impact in a negative way across the globe. And I think there needs to be coming a time where you do see this coming to an end. But I think we could see a little bit more pain, though. As far as pain is concerned, I think that is not out of the blue, but I think it's going to be short-lived. I don't think it's going to be as long as a lot of people are anticipating. I'm personally projecting 6 months, maybe maybe even consolidation downside, before heading towards the upside. Because let's face it, we need a little bit of a reset. We need a reset before we start heading towards the upside, because of course everything has been inflated. It's just not making sense. And I think this reset was needed, before heading more towards the upside. Because let's face it, nothing goes up straight forever. There will come times of turbulence, and I think we're going through it right now. But on the bright side, look at what this says. Emily says, Ripple lawyer Stewart says, when the regulatory cloud is lifted and we get some policy clarity in the US, we will then be the most trusted source for enterprise support for crypto solutions in the US. And we all need an official announcement from the SEC that the Ripple case is over. Again, this is old, that is over. But, kind of things are already starting to unfold if you kind of take a look at the specific statement. Again, I could not agree more. The most trusted source. Why would it be the most trusted source? Because they care about a regulatory approval. They care about regulatory clarity, and they have that, especially with RLUSD and how they're doing their business. They understand, the way things are moving. They understand how the space is evolving, and they understand how important being compliant is. Of course, when you talk about bigger enterprises, these bigger enterprises, are going to be more leaning forward towards entities or companies that provide crypto services, but at the same time have that regulatory approval, which again extra Ripple has. And on top of that, it's a one-stop shop, right? As our real-world assets are emerging, tokenizations are being discussed so much. I think it just puts itself out there in just a perfect way. But moving forward, we wanted to kind of show you guys this right here, because this is quite interesting. And again, this kind of just summarizes what I've been saying, and why I personally think this overall sideways momentum, low correction, your market crash, whatever you want to call it, is going to be short-lived. So you can see Speaker Johnson, American golden era is here. So Speaker Mike Johnson is celebrating the latest, jobs reports, calling it the proof that Trump economic policies are working. The U.S. economy added 228,000 jobs just last month. The U.S. economy, far exceeding expectations and demonstrating that, POTUS policies are working. We are on our way to make America golden age. So again, when you kind of look at these numbers, you kind of see, hold on, things are working, but at the end of the day, why are we seeing so much uncertainty? I specifically think it is due to the tariffs. I personally think if there is some sort of, conclusion that comes down to it, I think that would be quite bullish. But we got to take it step by step, process. So again, very interesting things right now. Of course, like I said, by no means am I saying we are out of the woods. I think we could see more downside, but kind of look at it from this perspective and understand what's happening and where smart money is really going. That is how I am currently analyzing the market. But looking at the price, as far as the price is concerned, going into Saturday morning, of course, one thing we need to keep in mind is over the weekends more manipulation than usual. As CME futures are closed, but if you're looking at the dominance, it has been pulling down. Again, nothing to be getting overly excited about, but it's still really high in a grand scheme of things. BTC on the other hand, still ranging in the 38.2. Again, very nice to see the fact that, we did see the stock market close on a negative note while Bitcoin closed the daily candle on a positive note, which of course is quite interesting to see. Is it just whale manipulation, or is this indeed a time for where Bitcoin is going to shine while there is a lot of uncertainty? Interest rates are still quite high in my opinion. We haven't really seen a rate cut. Maybe if we were to see a rate cut happening, that could be, a complete different, way to be looking at the markets once again. But we'll see what happens. Again, we're going to analyze it one step at a time. As far as the price of XRP is concerned, consolidating really nicely within the 38.2, like what I'm seeing here, of course, but we're going to take it one step at a time. We'll keep you guys updated. If you have not subscribed, what are you waiting for? Why have you guys not come and joined the Crypto ZX army? I need each and one of you guys on board. Love you all. Thank you for all your support. We'll see you later in Crypto ZX, and peace out.